Another question from Babajide Komolafo of Vanguard newspaper. At a recent conference of central bank governors and financial regulators held in Johannesburg, South Africa, you were reported to have advised banks to ensure tighter regulations to guard against a run on the banks. Can you take us through the systemic health status of Nigerian banks? Thank you, Governor.
Like I said, that we had put in place a couple of prudential guidelines to insulate the Nigerian bank, and that we say and make bold to say that the financial soundness indicators in Nigeria, in the Nigerian banking industry, shows that Nigerian banks remain very, very resilient, not just resilient, but very, very resilient compared to what we find in other climes. For instance, capital adequacy ratio, which is meant to be between 10 and 15%, today is about 13.7%. Non-performing loans ratios has dropped to 4.2%. Liquidity ratio is about 43%. Return on equity is at least 21%, which we think is reasonable. And like I said, NPLs at 4.2. Cash reserve today, aside from the special bills that we're keeping, we are today holding close to about 14 trillion naira in cash reserve deposit from banks. This is good liquidity that is meant to actually act as insulation just in case of problems. Also, on the loan deposit ratios, the banks today are just at 52.7%, which means they are not over trading. They are diversifying their portfolio to ensure that they have ample liquidity or ample zero-risk investments or securities where they make money, but at the same time, depositors' funds remain protected. What we saw at the aftermath of the SVB program in the United States is that the government came out to say, the United States government, President Biden himself came out to say that that all depositors of SVB or the other bank, that they will be paid all their monies, notwithstanding the fact that what is secured, what is guaranteed is $250,000. This is something that even in Nigeria we have been doing on our own, either as a result of certain guidelines put in place, prudential guidelines put in place by the CBN, or as a result of collaboration between the CBN and the banks. We have made sure that even when banks are taken over by the CBN, that whereas the shareholders may lose their investment, there are no depositor, as far as I know, since 2008, has lost its deposit in Nigerian banking industry today. Not one. It is because we insist that, yes, shareholders today, from our own standpoint in CBN, are seen to be less important than depositors. In fact, we've gotten to a realm where we're beginning to see that banks are owned by depositors, not by shareholders. Because if you look at the balance sheet of an average 5-year-old bank today, the size of depositors' funds is at least close to between 7 to 10 times of shareholders' funds. And that's why we come out very strongly when we find shareholders misbehaving in banks. We do not spare them, because we will continue to repeat that the banking license is a privilege. It is not a right. The banking license is the property of the Central Bank of Nigeria that can be withdrawn at any time once we find that the shareholders are misbehaving. This is a policy that the Central Bank has held on to even before I became the governor of CBN. And I know that even now, or even after I would have left office, that whoever will be governor of Central Bank will insist that shareholders cannot continue to have the kind of right they think they have to run a bank anyhow, run them aground, and make depositors lose their deposit. We'll rather dispense with the shareholders than make sure that depositors do not lose their deposits. So I thank you all for your attention.